Hi friends, I'm making this short video because there were some queries related with how to plan a retirement, maybe early retirement in some cases, if somebody has enough money. Actually, it can also solve the other question that how much money do you need for an early retirement or even a planned retirement at an age of 60. This is my idea of retirement, to put it in this way. It's not a financial advice. I'm not a SEBI registered anymore. You can take my idea and probably make your own plan or consult some financial advisor if that is needed. So if you can see, it's one of the challenging problem to have a retirement fund good enough to sustain you for your life, right? In fact, one of the toughest challenge when it comes to financial planning. Other expenses, you do have a definite one-time money requirement, let's say for child's education or buying a house. You know this much amount is needed in these many years, and it's a one-time expense. The problem with retirement kitty is it has to be something which can sustain you for a number of years. So the withdrawal is going to happen for every month, probably every year, and things do keep changing, right? So it's a very dynamic kind of a planning which is required, and the mindset needed to achieve this is also needs to be a little dynamic. So I've made a couple of buckets here the way I see financial planning. First and foremost, you need to have a term plan if you are below 60, so that if something happens, you have loans, etc. Those things are taken care and your dependents don't have to break your investment portfolios. Second thing is have a medical insurance, family float or individual based on your situation, and preferably take it before age of 45 because after 45 a lot of checks are medical checks gets added in case you want to take insurance for the first time. And in India, most of the time your pre-existing diseases will get covered after 3 years of continuous coverage. And God forbid if you get some disease like diabetes after 45, most of the Indian insurers will not give you an insurance, or they will give you a very high premium insurance with a co-payment options. So better don't get into those traps. Keep a insurance as a hedge against your investment portfolio so that it does not get disturbed. And also later, let's say at the age of 45 you took an insurance and later at the age of 48 you have diabetes, it will still be covered because you started your insurance before that disease. So it's important take that insurance cover and everything gets included in insurance after 3 years of coverage. That's a, I think, IRDA rule. Pre-existing diseases has to be covered. So don't play with your life, don't play with your health. And if these two things are taken care, then let's talk about the retirement portfolio. Obviously, this is one of the goals. There might be many more goals, things like your goals for sending kids to education, buying house, or there can be different goals, right? So I'm not talking about them. You need to still plan for them separately, keep some money aside. But this is for you and your spouse. How do you live your life without income? So I'm trying to answer that question here. So the way I think, so there are different classical theories of retirement. I'll jump to this table initially. So traditional retirement solution says put your money in a safe instruments because they assume the person who is not earning the money should not be taking any risk and put in FD and withdraw as and when needed. But if I apply this 4% withdrawal rule for a portfolio growing at 8%, which is generally the FD rate, and inflation is also around 8%, so you're not saving anything. And pretty soon by the year 19 or 20, you will run out of money. So this is especially alarming for people who are looking for an early retirement before 60 because 17, 18 or 19 years is not too long. In a click, it will vanish before your eyes, and you don't want to be dependent on other people, right? So, but this do work earlier when life expectancy was around 75 and people were retiring around 60, 62. So easily 20 years coverage will take you to 82, right? And it was okay. But now with so much medical advancement, people are living 85 plus, and sometimes people are retiring before 60. So the gap in terms of your retirement life is actually pretty big. and you need to cater for that. And I believe this traditional solution is definitely not going to work for most of us. So the other option is, even a retiree person has to take a risk of putting money into equity. The way you do it, uh, assuming India grows at 12%, India's equity grows at 12%, and you are in any vanilla mutual fund which is giving you that much of annual rate, and you withdraw at 4%, so you will still be left with 8% of your money. And if I'm assuming inflation is also at 8%, so you are actually not reducing your portfolio value over the years, because you are only taking the differential between the growth and the inflation, which is 12 minus 8, which is 4. So if you're only taking the excess out of it, you're still leaving your portfolio intact. And mathematically, this can last forever, because the only challenge is either the growth tempers below 12 or you start withdrawing higher than 4%. So, but usually inflation and GDP goes hand in hand. So over a long term, it will not impact you, and but you need to maintain the discipline of withdrawing 4 or less than, preferably even less than 4 is also better if you have lesser expenses. So the all question about retirement solution boils down to how much money you need monthly. So I have expense table here, which you can also make for your own. And this is a template kind of a thing. Your situation may be different from somebody else's situation. So this is for a family of four adults and two kids. So let's say two kids, education, tuition fees, extracurricular. These days, a lot of things happen. So 30,000 for that. You want to go for an annual vacation, 2 and 2.5 lakhs, 20,000. Then you do have to give some gifts to your relatives, close relatives, and all, and helper. Sometimes you need a driver or assistant. Then your regular kharcha about cereals, atta, dal, etc. Shopping you probably will do. It's non-food shopping, so can be clothes, can be showcase items, souvenirs, and there are many such things. Tax liability, since you are taking some money out of the kitty, so there will be some tax liability on you. It will be definitely more than 6 lakh a year. Vegetable these days 300 rupees, not much. Around 4,500 for vegetables, fruits, dining. So if you go through this list, do it for your retirement life and see what is the total sum. That will give you an idea how much money you need every month. And don't try to be as granular, as detailed as possible here, because this number is going to derive every calculation about the money that you need. So let's say you have that number around 1.77, or let's say 2 lakhs. I've taken 2 lakhs based on our real calculations. In fact, I can make it 1.77 also, 177917. Let me just change it. That means your annual expenses will be multiplied by 12. This is monthly expense. And your retirement corpus has to be multiplied by 25 for the rule of 4% to work. So if you multiply for this expenses, actually you need 5 crores 33 lakhs rupees. And how do we arrive at that? It's very simple. 4% rule is actually working backwards. You divide 100 by 4, you get 25. So what it means, if you have 5 crores of rupees and you're taking 4% out of it, you will get 21 lakhs 35,000, which is shown here for the first year if you take 4%. And then you are still left with 57 lakhs, which is keeping pace with the inflation. The next year, this portfolio again grows at 12%, and you again withdraw inflation adjusted 4%. So I've added inflation here. So first year you were taking out 21 lakhs, second year maybe you will need 23 lakhs because inflation keeps going up, but your portfolio is able to keep up as well. So this is the basic funda. And now you see the problem with anything which is growing lesser than inflation. Let's say fixed deposit solutions, they are mostly at par with inflation. And then there is added problem. FDs are taxed, added in your income slab. That means they will be taxed at 30%. So even this 8%, 30% of it, 2.4% will be out. So you're actually dealing with the portfolio growing at 6-7% only. And if your inflation is 7 to 8%, every year your portfolio is falling behind, and on top of that you're also withdrawing from that portfolio. This is not going to survive for 15 to 20 years. Some people say it can survive for 25 years, but I think they miss this tax part. If you add the tax portion as well, which I have added here, to get 4%, you need to actually withdraw 5.6%. So the amount left in the portfolio starts shrinking and the gap is huge, you see. But here the gap is not huge. You are mostly keeping up with the portfolio growth. So for coming back to the original concept for retirement, you need to know your expenses, make a sum total of monthly expenses, multiply that for your annual expenses, because we are talking about annual growth in portfolio. So we need annual numbers here, not monthly. And then for 4% rule, you multiply that whole amount by 25. Then you get your number. So let's say this is the number. Now we'll come to the cash flow part of it, how to manage it using mutual fund or some other reliable instruments. So once you have the number, you have your life and medical insurance sorted out. You can put that money into any mutual fund which gives you 12% CAGR. I have taken it on a conservative side. I think MFs can give more than 12%, probably 13%, but let's be conservative, and if things are positive, it's better. Now, I have created this buffer portfolio, which should cover your 3 years of expenses. Why I have done that is because after you're retired, then you're not going to add any more money into this portfolio in a meaningful way. Let's say if it is already 5 crores, you will not be able to add 1 or 2 crores so easily. And I don't want you to withdraw every year 12%. Let's say market goes down. Mutual fund return is never linear. They will not give you 12, 12, 12. They will probably give you 40% followed by minus 16% followed by 0%. So you make a buffered portfolio of 3 years where you can wait for market to come up, and then you withdraw again for refill this buffer portfolio for 3 years of expenses. Essentially, I'm asking you to uh, sell at a buy low, sell high. That's what we say, right? So you cannot buy more because you don't have money, but you can always sell higher. So whenever your mutual funds give a better return and AV is higher, you fill your buffered portfolio for 3 years. So that for next 3 years you are taken care, and naturally after market goes up, it will come down and you don't have to withdraw during the down period, and you'll survive because this is a safe investment and 3 years are taken care. Out of that, every March or every December you can take 1 years of, actually do it in December or November. Market usually tanks in January, February for some strange reasons, but usually after Diwali, Santa Claus rally, it's pretty good around November, December timeframe. So take that 1 year expense out from your buffered portfolio and put in your saving bank account. It should be a different account from your buffered portfolio, and you use all your online things, banking, ATM, etc., from this account. So if some kind of online fraud happens, you lose maximum 1 years of your expenses. For your buffered portfolio, have a separate bank account. Don't use it for online banking. The most scary one is that keep the ATM, but also don't use the ATM. When I say online banking, you have to use that for transferring funds, but don't use it for online purchases, etc., or link your UPI, etc. So keep a difference between two accounts. That will also give you clarity how much money you have here versus how much money you have here. Then there should be an emergency fund, so that you don't have to break into your buffered portfolio, because emergency will not be covered in your expenses, right? And this portfolio is actually covering your expenses only. So the emergency fund can be useful for you in case you need some extra money. Let's say your kid is going into some new school and sometimes they do need some donation, or some ramp bulk money is needed for a short period of time, or your insurance is falling short by 10 lakhs even after coverage. So you can use this fund for all that purposes. Now how much money should be here, it's little subjective, you can decide on your own, but I would say ballpark maybe 6 to 12 months of expenses. So if you have expenses of roughly 20 lakhs, maybe put 10 lakhs here as an emergency, and based on your lifestyle you will have a very good idea how much money you should be keeping separate to buffer yourself against emergencies. I will say also keep one non-emergency fund, because a lot of times things are not an emergency. Mm, what if your sister or your brother ask you for a little bit of help of 4 to 5 lakh rupees? Now you are a retired person, but still there will be some expectation for you to provide support to your family, to your kids, if they are grown up already. So, but also you don't want to touch your emergency fund for such purposes. So make a separate bucket of non-emergency fund. It can be 5 to 10 lakhs rupees lying over there, and in fact it can supplement you in case your emergency funds shortfall. So in that case you can use your non-emergency fund as a bucket too, instead of dipping into your buffer portfolio. So making these different buckets, different FDs, will ensure that you have very clear mind what are you using and what you need to refill after it gets exhausted. Now, how do we refill this? Is I'm assuming if anybody is retired and they are not too old, especially people who are retiring young, you will have some source of income which will be a little irregular. It will be your hobby or trading or whatever you are doing, right? But don't put your retirement kitty at stake at any point in time. So your this leg remains sacrosanct, because if you touch this, you are gone. You will not be in a retired life. You will not be able to build this fund again. That is why I'm asking you to put in a mutual fund, not take stock investments in your own hand. Because if you make a mistake and you're wiped out, it's difficult to come back, very difficult. And this gives you a cushion. Then whatever leftover money, 5 6 lakhs, you can apply to your hobby or burn that money, kujli money as I call it. So that irregular income, whenever you receive, you can either fill your bucket of 1 year expenses if it is falling short and you think market is down, you don't want to touch your main kitty. Or if you're one of these funds are falling short of money, put it refill these two funds. Then there are two optional things which is not necessary, but you can consider maybe if you have surplus money now or later. So gold is a very good hedge, because if, let's say you see what is happening in Turkey or even in Sri Lanka after dollar started rising, they cannot pay their bills. The country itself gets defunct and currency value depreciates, right? So if you have a gold, that is a global commodity, globally accepted currency, if I have to say that, and it actually was before 70s. So you can always have little bit of money, 10 to 20% of your retirement in a gold that insulates you from any global recession, world wars, unrest, including India situations. But if you want to safeguard yourself, let's say only against India, then you can put your money a little bit into dollar dominated equities. This way you are insulated against anything happening inside India, but you will not be insulated against anything happening globally. So if you take gold, I think that takes care of option two as well. But option two can help sometimes. If you keep your some money, especially for people who are coming from abroad, you can keep some money in dollars if your country allows that. Because sending money from India to abroad is always going to be a challenging thing. RBI will always try to block outgoing while they always welcome incoming. So if you have to do some purchases abroad in future, let's say buying some property or sending your kids to school, that will be a little bit of challenge. But if you have dollars already outside India, then you can use that to fund those purposes. So it's a little bit of advanced options, maybe not needed for everyone, but till here I think is required for all of us, and it's very practical that you will need different buckets to serve different purposes. And maintain this discipline of 4%. If possible, you think you have you spend less money than what was required, you can even withdraw 3% as well. And the statistical analysis, which I read a lot of books on retirement planning as well. So what they say is they run this model for millions of combinations in US market. And the main observation was if somebody is starting retirement today and they put their money in retirement portfolio and the market also tanks in the same year, then they have a slight chance of falling short of the money, because they are also withdrawing and market is also falling short, so the start itself is bad. In case that happens, maybe you can keep your buffer portfolio ready upfront, so you give a little bit of head start. to your retirement portfolio mutual funds. We all know mutual funds don't start to perform from the day one. Usually they show their benefits or growth after 3 to 4 years of money being there, right? Because it takes time to grow money in a mutual fund way, but that's a stable and sure way. So if you give little bit of head start to your retirement portfolio and maybe put your buffer portfolio in advance and let it run for 3 plus 1 4 years, and then you start withdrawing 4%, you're good. And if obviously needed, 4% is your max. If you can do little less, it's always better. So this is the overall concept. It does not matter which mutual fund you are choosing, as long as I mean, even the worst mutual funds, I will say, if they are not thematic or they are not too fancy mutual fund, any largely diversified normal mutual fund would have given you 12% CAGR in any way over 5, 6, 7, 8 years. In fact, more than that. So you don't need to break your head which mutual fund to choose. Take any mutual fund which has a consistent record for a longer period of time. Maybe diversify into 2 to 3, maximum 4 mutual funds. Don't dilute more than that. Then you will have too much mutual funds also to manage. So keep 2 to 3 or maximum 4 mutual funds diversified, and withdraw whenever you think there is a need based on this calculation. It's a little tricky. I should tell you that life will not be easy here because it's not FD, and you will see your portfolio maybe dipping 30%, right? And it will not be happy scene. That is where withdrawing 4% more will give you nightmares. That is where buffer portfolio will help. You don't touch it for that year. Let it come back, bounce back, and once it again goes up 50%, 40%, which happens, then you again refill your bucket of 3 years of expenses. So it's like the same strategy all these birds and animals do, right? In good times, harvest season, they will put lot of seeds and food in their nest. So when summers or winters arrive, they don't need to go outside and take additional risk. So when market is good, take your money, keep your buffer portfolio, and basically wait for that. Let's say market is again good after next year. So whatever you used for an year, you can refill it, or maybe you make it 5 years of expenses to make you super safe. So these are simple tools, does not require any hi-fi knowledge. You just have to use your common sense, as buy low and sell at higher. So since you're not buying, just sell higher. But if you get some extra money, you can also add more to your retirement portfolio. And this is not going to finish forever unless these things holds true, which is inflation is 4% lesser than what equity market is giving you return. It generally remains so. Uh, so this equation I don't think will change for next 20 to 30 years in India unless something drastic happens. And if that happens, then that is where the gold and international equities comes to your rescue. So I think this is how you can plan your retirement life. Again, I'm not an advisor. These are some random numbers I have picked up. You need to have your expenses. Everything comes from here. So if you are making a big mistake here, all your retirement planning will go for a toss. So spend some time here. Think what all headers or items you need to add in your situation, you need to remove in your situation, and do a calculation, multiply by 12, multiply by 25, you know the number. Now how do you reach here is something that you need to think today. If somebody has amount of money, 3 4 5 crores, then you can possibly retire today itself. If you don't have that much money, then your only option is to reach here somehow by investing in stocks or using some aggressive strategies, or maybe simply earn more money, focus on your job and get whenever you get that money, focus, I mean, do your job and invest, and when you reach here, you can always retire. Or the other option is look at your expenses. If you reduce this number will also get reduced. Yeah, I think that's all from my side. Think about it. I can send you this sheet. You can contact me when you need, and all the best. Thank you.